All right, one of the common misconceptions about having a greenhouse like this is that you'll be able to grow a lot more, grow throughout the seasons. And unfortunately, depending on where you live and how you have it set up, that's really not the case. These things, especially this one specifically, the way it's tied down on the sides, you do have some ventilation between the door and the window when you have the screen up there, but it get incredibly hot. So even on today's like today, where it's not even above freezing, it's about 15 degrees higher inside of there. In the summer, it's about 4,000 degrees. So you have crazy temperature fluctuations from either below 0 to 100 degrees on February days, 150 degrees in the summer. Plants don't really like to grow in those sort of environments. And when you're dealing with small spaces such as these, yeah, you have dirt and garden beds in there, but you may not be able to use it as you would like during those seasons. Which means these are more for, I would say, season extenders. We do some growing in there, but it's really not extensive. And we mainly focus on extending the seasons, either growing late summer into fall, or talking about something today, trying to have a season extension of doing your seedlings and your seed trays, everything a bit earlier than what you would have certainly outside here on the snow. Obviously you can't do that. So that's what we'll be talking today. So we're going to modify the greenhouse again, and we're going to talk about these things right here. So what we're going to try to do is make working space above the garden beds. Obviously nothing is in the garden bed right now, but we want to get into using seed trays. So it's about mid-February right now, and we're about a month and a half before we can kind of work into the ground and start planting on the outskirts. So we want to get our seeds in there. We want to use the greenhouse as the environment to grow this. We're not going to be inside. We're going to do this all outside. It works plenty fine for us. We're going to just work with nature to make that work. So we're going to do all of our seed trays on top of this. So if I were to want to put seed trays here, I don't have space for that because I have the dirt. And especially when you have seed trays where you have the roots that can get out of the bottom of that, you don't want to get them into the dirt, because then they'll start growing with that and you pull them up, then you destroy the root system. The back can support some seed trays, but certainly not to the extent of what we go after. So we probably will go through 20 to 30 seed trays in a given year. So if you have 20 to 30 in here, you can't do anything. If you start putting stuff on the ground, then you can't do anything with that dirt itself. So we're going to look at using something like these. So I'll try to set them up as I'm talking here. So what I wanted was something temporary. Since this was something within a specific part of a season, I was going to use it, but it was not going to be something long-term or permanent. I wanted something that I could just quickly put up and take away whenever the use was done with. So in this case, I want to use this probably for the next 2 months for the seed trays. Once everything is on the outskirts into the garden beds, I don't need them anymore. So then I want to pop that off. This is a small space. You need to make the best use of your space, and I don't want to make anything permanent. The only thing that I made permanent or modification was on the middle part. Was I'm going to put something here, and this is only really tied into the metal. And there was some give to it. It probably would still hold with that brace, but I just wanted to make sure that 100% there wasn't going to be any issue. So I just put a 2x4 across on the bottom bars. Just put one up top, so it even further rigidifies the whole structure here. So you got a nice equal brace here. Here I'm going to brace everything through here with no screws, no nothing. It's essentially just a half folding table, and I use notches here. So I just cut out a inch notch in all of these, and they're gonna the notches are going to connect to these notches to have a very firm brace once it's put into there. So I'll show you how it is done. So it's set up good. Okay, so this is 2x4s. Put it up. Would be easier if you had 2 people, but works easy enough here. Okay, and I have another one. Okay. So this is made out of all 2x4s. So it's about, and it's the dimensions are ultimately going to be determined on whether you have this and the length of your beds. So this is 65 inches long and 2 feet wide. So it's a 65-inch brace or rectangle square here, all put together by Kreg screws. And so you have the outside one, and then you have another middle brace. So those notches not only rigidify here, but that other brace also allows this to have no sort of wiggle room. So it kind of pinches the actual structure to the greenhouse structure, creates a very sturdy base. I just put metal grate that we had extra laying around. I just stapled that onto there, and I just put 1x2s on top of that and just brad nailed them in. So the legs itself, as you saw, fold nice and easy. They are stabilized by the bricks on the bottom, and they're just attached through carriage bolts and everything. So nothing specific, nothing too particular about that. So this is quite sturdy. So I cannot, this is not moving at all. Obviously there's going to be some wiggle room here, but it essentially is not going to fall over or lose. I'm going to lose seat trays because someone knocked into it. So I purposely put that trim on top because I knew what the dimensions of my seat tray were. If I had that up top, there was also the chance that it could fall over, something like that. But now I have that cornered in through the trim on top. So there is some movement here, but that extra piece of wood really locks that in, so nothing happens with that. So I also built it to these dimensions because I knew what these dimensions were. So I knew the width and I knew the length of all these, so I could fit 6 trays on top of this one, 6 trays on top of this one. I still have the dirt beneath it, so if I do want to sow the seeds, they'll still grow no matter what. The sun primarily comes from that side, and it goes through here, so I have no issues if I still want to use the dirt as is. The grate also helps it if I want to water anything. The water goes into the dirt, so there's no loss of water in that. The other thing to consider is it is still snowing out here. The outside temperature will get into teens and single digits, so it will get very hot during the day, but at night obviously this thing is not insulated, so it loses that warmth very quickly. So if you just have your seed trays out here, the way it is set up, you have the potential of your dirt and your seedlings also to freeze, and obviously you don't want to do that. So there is another modification that I did to this to enable the use of the cloths to minimize the impact of the cold temperature. So for each of these tables, there are holes throughout that I just drilled a little hole in there, and this is just metal wire that you can just pick up from Home Depot. So I just put them in there. There's nothing I need to do. I'm just not put them into the notches here. So this way, if you want to use the garden cloth, so if you have your seed trays up here, you want to minimize the impact of the cold on here, then you're just going to put the seed cloth as is. So that covers it, minimizes that sort of impact from the freezing temperature. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing in the next couple of weeks. We're going to start becoming more active with setting up our seed trays, putting our seeds in, and this way we can do seed trays as well as direct sowing, so we can grow in here for the next month and a half. And then once this is done, we simply just take it down again, pop it off, and we go on to the next part of the season. So like I said, I wanted something that wasn't permanent, something easy to take off. And as you can see, once you have something here, it's a half folding table at that point. I put the legs inside and you're good to go. You want to store that in your shed, so now you have full access to this if you have larger plants during the garden season. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to do this for right now, and we're going to modify that for something else, because one of the weaknesses that this might have during very cold times, we're going to do something over there to make sure we don't run into those sorts of issues. So that's what we're doing here. Hope this helps you guys.